Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Dave.
And join us every Thursday for a new episode of Two Player Bros, a podcast about two guys who play way too many video games. Join me and Dave as we talk about the latest in Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and VR news, previews, and reviews. We have it all, and we play it all.
And join us every other week for Post Game, where we play through and dive deep into our favorite modern classics and new releases.
That's Two Player Bros, available every Thursday wherever you get your podcast, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. Another season of Forgotten Horror has come to an end, but as Field paraphrases Al Pacino from Scent of a Woman,
we're just getting warmed up!
Spend the next few months with Forgotten Cinema as Season 7 kicks off with movies from all across the decades. We jump to the 70s to talk about The Front Page, starring Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
We dive into the 80s with Michael Mann's Thief and the Dennis Quaid Meg Ryan thriller DOA, and then slice into Butler's childhood years, the 90s, with The Last Samurai and The Negotiator.
That's right, Field. You're old. So very old.
Shut up, Butler.
Forgotten Cinema, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Pat Whalen.
Pat is a lifelong comic book geek.
And Mike is a filmmaker and storyteller. So naturally, a bulk of our conversations surround the world of the Marvel movies. Some consider the MCU one of the greatest achievements in modern-day filmmaking, and others just think they're comic book movies. Each episode will tackle one film and discuss the differences between the comic book and what's on screen. We'll explore the growth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe from its inception to present day and beyond, and have a little fun along the way. You may not have asked for it. You certainly don't need it, but you'll be happy we're here. We think. This is yet another MCU podcast. Hey, Mike, you ready to cue up the Yacht Rock Radio and launch into space with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
I like how you took control there. Nice job. All right, we're back. As Pat has just said, we're doing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. You know how we like to do here at Yet Another MCU Podcast. We go movie versus comic, and then movie in the MCU. So let's go. Runtime of 136 minutes, rated PG-13. Production budget of $200 million. It's a big one. Rivals the Iron Man 3 budget. Released on my birthday, May 5th, 2017. Opening weekend, it did 146. Domestic 389 and worldwide 863. So, hey, it did pretty good. You have some returning players here. You've got, obviously, the director and writer, James Gunn. We don't have the original writer, Nicole Perlman, or I think it was, from the first one. Tyler Bates returned, who did the music for Guardians of the Galaxy. But then you had different cinematographer, Henry Braun, because I believe the other cinematographer was working on another Marvel movie that was running along.
I think you did tell me that he's done the cinematographer of the original Guardians. I've done a couple other ones.
Right.
It's part of the family.
So you have all the returning cast members, and Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Michael Rooker, and Karen Gillan. So they all have returned, and I'm not going to give their names. You should know them already. But now we have new people entering the fold. We have Peter Quill's father, Kurt Russell, as Ego. I'm going to say this name wrong. Palm Clementieff as Mantis. Elizabeth Debicki as Aisha, and Sylvester Stallone for some reason as Stakar Agord. Is that right? Did I say that right? Stakar Agord. I'm sure he's a member of the comic that you're going to tell me about, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Oh, yes, we will. All right. So, fun fact, I don't know if Pat and I are really high on this movie. Great music, right?
The only reason anybody wants a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is so we get more music to drink to in the summer.
And now you know what Pat likes to do. But yeah, I mean, it's got a great soundtrack, and the movie starts off with a great song, and it's a great opening. And there's a lot of style to this movie and very little substance.
Yes.
Some substance, but not a lot. I mean, there's pieces of stuff that I enjoy in this movie. Why don't you, because you're better at this than I am, just kind of give us where we are in terms of what this story is about and where we're coming from and all that good stuff.
So we pick up a couple months after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, where the team has saved the day from the Kree invasion of Nova, and now they're kind of recognized mercenaries going about getting hired to do jobs. So they pick up early on in a great opening scene where they're fighting this monster beast that's there destroying batteries for this sovereign organization. And they're hired by them to defeat the monster, and they do. Rocket steals one of the batteries, and then chaos ensues where he's being chased down, and the whole team, they eventually crash land in a planet, and that's where they meet Peter's father, who was teased in the first movie. It's Kurt Russell. He's Ego. He's a living planet. And it turns out that Peter is the only one of his many, 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 many children
Yeah.
that gained his power, and he needed it to
Take over the
universe, take over the
He had
galaxy.
he has the same pretty much goal that Thanos has in
Yeah.
Avengers. All these bad guys all want to do is just change the world to a better world.
Yeah, he wanted to make over the universe in his own light, in his own format. In the meantime, you also have a side story with Yondu. The Ravagers are breaking up. There's mutiny among the group. We spent a lot of time with Yondu and the Ravagers.
Yeah.
And eventually they make their way over to help Peter and Quill and the rest of the Guardians.
Yondu does, not
Yondu
the Ravagers.
does, not all the Ravagers.
I never realized that Ravager ship was that big. When he's fighting, was killing them all with the arrow.
Yep.
How big is this ship? This is like a fleet.
Yeah.
But anyways, not to cut you off.
No,
but,
I mean, that was the movie.
Yeah. So the scene because there's a couple things within the movie that I want to just kind of get to that made me like, I was just kind of like, what? So he shows them, Ego's telling them, hey, man, this is what I did. He's telling Peter, like, I met your mother, and they have that little display that they got, like, it's like you're in a Walt Disney World.
It's the world of tomorrow.
Yeah, like you're on a ride. And he shows them, I saw your mom, we made out, and then, you came, later on he reveals that, but I've been doing this, all around.
Thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of years.
Two things. He tells how he started off as a brain. He doesn't know how. And then he imagined what biological life would be, and then he formed himself. Okay, so you imagined human? You didn't imagine any other biological... he could be lying, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Then when he tells him that, that I've been going across the galaxy trying to plant my seed and see if it'll grow. But when he shows it to him, he's human the whole time that he's making out with all these aliens. You never changed? You just walked around as a human?
Humans are the...
It is ego that humans are the center of the universe.
Center of the universe. I don't know. You think he would have... You're right. You think he would have like formatted himself so he fit in more with the whatever culture he was trying to take over.
I get it, Mike. It's a movie. Shut up. I understand that. But still, that pumps out to me. I also didn't realize that Groot is baby Groot. He's not. The other Groot died. I didn't realize that. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay, I never knew that. I thought it was just Groot.
No, he's a different. He's like a different Groot.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think when he grows up, I think he might grow up to look like Big Groot that we saw in the first movie. Slightly different though. He's is part of this Groot species. That Rocket apparently is the only one that knows how to speak to.
Well, I get the many tags that are at the end of this movie. They have Peter talking to
Groot.
That little, like he's a teenager now.
Yeah.
He's yelling, but he understands him there.
That's
so
right.
I guess that was the first time you saw that, other than Rocket. That was made mention for this thing. So that's fine. The one thing I enjoy about Guardians of the Galaxy is that they don't get along. The characters fight, and that while they're together, and you kind of at the end of this movie they talk about how they're family and they're not, that kind of stuff. I enjoy that theme and that element. But I found this story is supposed to be about Quill and Ego. Mm-hmm. And the moment when he shoots Ego and he's upset about, I love that when he finds out he gave his mother cancer.
Oh right, yeah. And then he shoots him, and like pieces of his body come off, and then just reforms.
Right, that's a nice moment. But that stuff is, I've actually found the Gamora and Nebula stuff a little bit more appealing and, I don't know, deeper.
I wish they gave, one of my notes here is I wish they gave Gamora more to do, knowing what her storyline is in Infinity War.
Right.
And that, Infinity War is...
Do they know that, though?
This is, 2017? Is what this was?
No, this was... Yes, it was 20... Oh, then they do.
Yeah, this is 2017. You're 5 movies until Infinity War, right?
Right.
I think there was at least some idea where the story was going. I mean, Infinity War came out 2019? No, 2018?
Infinity War came out... Well, no. Was it 6 months? Or was it a year to the year?
Yeah, it was a year to a year. So it was 2018 and
2019. Yeah. Nothing came out in
2020. I think they knew what was happening with Gamora's storyline. And so this one just seems like a really weird... She doesn't have as much to do. There's a lot of scenes of her just sitting around, not doing much. And then what she does have is the small pieces with Nebula. That works. The relationship between Nebula and Gamora works really well. And you understand Nebula's fighting with her hatred of her. and then you get a little bit more Nebula. But there's not. I don't know. I would have cut out most of the Yondu stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sped up some of the Ego Peter stuff and played more with Gamora and Nebula.
Okay, yeah. As a whole, it's a little disjointed in terms of the entirety of the story, because the story is basically like the villain's not really a main. It's not really like a
no.
They have to overcome each other. Number one, but they have to overcome Ego. But it's almost like as soon as you see the introduction of Ego in the beginning of the movie, you immediately know he's going to be highly suspect that he's the bad guy, because it's such a big reveal that he's been looking for. He doesn't know who his father is. Yondu was supposed to pick him up and send him his father, and he didn't. And it was such a mystery. And then they reveal it in the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie, and it's just, I'm your dad, Peter. It's like, all right, so that's a little bit just kind of like nonchalant. And then all the other reveals are nonchalant. Oh, by the way, I murdered your mom.
Right.
But, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he is Ego. He just doesn't care.
Right.
He's going to take credit for it or just not think it's a big deal.
Right.
But yeah, it's a weird. They sit on that planet for a long time while Peter just talks with his dad.
Yes.
And it's not even like engaging conversation. It's just exposition dump after exposition dump after exposition dump.
Yeah. This movie feels like a season finale of like a third season of a show. Yeah. Because it's got multiple storylines trying to wrap up their individual things. And that's great. But that's not what a movie should be. It should not be an episodic. Yeah. It just shouldn't. Especially since we talked about it. It's 2020 now. Let's slide the pandemic aside for a second. This Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is not scheduled to come out for another 4 years.
A minimum?
Yeah. So let's say 8 and 9 years. Now, between 2017 and we're going to go 2026.
What's the focus in the next one? So this one has a lot of teasers through it. So is it going to be Peter tries to track down Gamora, or whatever time displaced Gamora there is? Is it? We've talked about this in the last film that Volume 3 is supposed to be heavy on Rocket. Do we get Thor in a Guardians movie? Do we get Adam Warlock, which was teased in this one? Do we get Sylvester Stallone and those Guardians that were teased in this one? Well, yeah. What is the next movie?
That I have to ask you that. Why is Michelle Yeoh and why is Ving Rhames in this movie? And why is Stallone in this movie?
They're comic characters, and we could talk about those.
All three of them. They're real.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So they go back to the in our last podcast, Guardians Volume 1, we touched on how the original Guardians team came from the year 3000.
Right.
And these are the characters from that Guardians team. So it was all these guys plus Yondu, who was the big kind of
we haven't even gotten into Yondu yet. Yeah.
Gladiator warrior type guy of this 30th century. So they were all like, it was a callback to them. But why are you casting such big names in these roles? And are we going to get to like an Expendables in space type movie? What are we doing?
Oof, God, no, please, no. Real quick, because you talked about Yondu. I absolutely do not like the Mary Poppins line. I don't like it.
No.
Because, and let me put it this way. I shouldn't say I hate the line. It's a funny line. I hate the fact that line has turned into this like, oh my God, it's so like people rally around it. Because that's not the line in the conversation that you should be rallying around. The line in the conversation that they have is, he may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. Or you may have, you know what I mean? That whatever that.
I think that is. He may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy.
Yeah. Like, that's the line. Not I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. That's the line you should be celebrating. Because with that line, I kind of wished there was a little bit more of the Yondu Quill relationship, not only in this movie, but in the first one.
Yes.
Now, I get it. Like, you get the idea. Oh, no, but, he was lying that he wasn't going to eat him. And he was lying that he lied to him why he kept him. But, like, you never see any tender moments.
No.
You see the end of the moment when he got the troll, and this is in the first one, he laughs. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for more than that. And they don't have that. And I think that would help. This one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the whole, I'm going to eat you thing, it was very reminiscent of Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Bride. Like, oh, good night, Wesley. I'm going to kill you. Sleep well. I'm going to kill you in the morning. Mm-hmm. But I guess in the way that Princess Bride did it differently than Guardians 2 does, is the way Wesley tells the story is you hear some levels of endearment as that goes on.
Mhm.
You never actually see that with Yondu, because in the first movie they're fighting each other, they're tricking each other, they're trying to get the Power Stone, they're yelling back and forth, oh, you use me, blah blah blah. And then in this one, when are they in the movie together? Are they ever? How often are they on in the same scene?
That's not till the end.
Yeah. So we don't get anything.
No, you're right.
It's except for what people are telling us. Oh, Yondu raised you. Oh, he didn't mean to actually. He wasn't actually going to eat you.
Right.
And it's got the running theme of you were small, you could fit into places, but
yeah, you're relying on the emotion of Peter and Ego to carry over to when Yondu shows up. That they're hoping that you forget the fact that they have not had any kind of connection at all during this movie
or the last one, really.
Right. And to your point about Princess Bride, right there off the bat, it's one movie.
Yep.
All that stuff is done in that movie. I'm sorry, I love world building, but one of the consequences of world building is that now you're being reliant on people watching other parts of your movie series. So we have to watch volume 1 to kind of really understand volume 2 a little bit better. That's great, but this is not a Disney Plus TV show. This is a movie. I should be able to show somebody Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and like, oh wow, I like that movie. And I'm like, oh, you should watch the first one because there's little things that would help you out. Not you need to watch the first one because you're not going to understand anything in the second one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
World building is great, but this is a byproduct of it. And story is universal, and through all the years and decades and ages, it still stays the same. And you really shouldn't rely on other outside stuff. It's great. Ancillary stuff is great, but it can't be like the main focus of what you want for emotion.
And that's what on this ancillary content idea. That's what's kind of challenged Star Wars over the last few years.
Right.
Is the core movies, the core sequel trilogy, haven't been the best, but we're supposed to go and read books and comics and watch a TV show and a cartoon and play a video game to get the full story of when we go and sit in and watch The Last Jedi.
I don't understand the reliance on us finding our connection to a movie that we're watching and other content that's not in front of me at this time.
Yes. There's 2 essentially standalone movies in the MCU, aside from Phase 1. In the later phases, there's Guardians Volume 2. It barely touches on anything else within the MCU. There's not a lot of Easter eggs. There's not a lot of connections in the movie. And then there's Black Panther. I can show somebody Black Panther and they have no questions. They sit there and watch a really solid, great movie that has a story told in 2-ish hours.
Right.
You come into Guardians Volume 2, you don't have that.
No.
I guess you could also say Doctor Strange. We weren't a huge fan of Doctor Strange, but it tells its story.
It's its own story,
It's its own story,
right?
And it tells it in 2 hours. And that's the problem with Volume 2 here is it doesn't. You need a lot of other things, to help you fill the story in.
Yeah, and I just fear that Volume 3 is going to be like that too. But let's go into the differences. The differences between the comics and the movie. I don't know. I know I sent you my list in terms of like what. I'm trying to figure out like where we could go and start off here.
Well, let's talk about Quill's parentage.
Okay. Go right ahead.
It's the whole theme of the movie.
Okay.
Who's his dad? So it's not Ego in the comics. Ego is essentially a planet with a face on it. He's the man in the moon. So he is not Quill's father. That is something built specifically for this. And I'm a little interested. There's a reason behind it, and that is because his father is a guy named Jason. There's a apostrophe in there.
Nice.
Comma to the sky. For you Psych fans out there.
Oh, boy.
So Jason of Spartax. So Sparta, Spartoi, whatever. It's a planet within what they call the Shi'ar Galaxy. The Shi'ar Galaxy...
Christ, man, you're losing me.
Yeah, I know. The Shi'ar Galaxy is big in X-Men lore. So it's I don't even know if they had the rights fully to the Shi'ar Galaxy in this film, depending on when... I don't remember when the Fox deal was. But it's a Shi'ar ties into a lot of the space pirate stuff, the Phoenix Saga in X-Men. I like that they set, whether they actually didn't set this up in here, so I'm not sure if they're going to be able to, how they bring that stuff in later on. He's essentially like a prince of the Sparta Empire, and during a war between Sparta and a couple other planets, he crash lands on Earth, and that's where he meets Meredith Quill, and he, falls in love, impregnates her, and then Peter comes out, which...
Peter comes out.
Peter is born. Peter happens. The stork brings Peter.
That's what I hear.
But so Jason eventually, he meets up with Quill later on in life, and he asks him to join him and rule the galaxy as father and son.
So Jason leaves just like Ego leaves?
Yeah. He has to get back to his planet, to his war.
And does Quill's mother die like same way as she died of cancer in the comics?
I don't know how she died.
But okay, does she die earlier? Like, does she like leave him
Yeah, I think they
young?
made
Okay.
it so.
And he's kidnapped, all that stuff. That's all the same. All right.
Yeah, so James Gunn has said he doesn't like Jason because it's too Vader, Luke Skywalker-esque. It's
Okay.
like-
Why is he bad?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he brought him in to kind of rule the galaxy with it. He wanted Quill to come in and join him and rule the galaxy with an iron fist type thing.
Right.
And we'll do it together as father and son. And like it's almost identical to the line.
It's the same. Yeah, I get that,
Yeah.
but that's the same stuff that Ego tells him.
Yeah.
Because the only reason that he does it the hard way is because he's fighting him. So he's like, fine, I'll just take it.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of that made Ego different here is that he's got this planet aspect to him.
This planet power,
Yeah.
the light, which I know what we're in the differences now, but Quill masters the light really quickly.
Yeah.
So we can have a catch. Anyway.
Fun fact about Jason, there's a Guardians animated show
Okay.
that ran on Disney XD or something.
I'm sure it's on Disney Plus now.
Yeah, I think it's on Disney Plus now. Jason was actually Quill's father in that.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those quasi continuity. They kind of pick and choose the adventures that they want to keep in continuity, but they had this whole. It ran for 3 seasons, so they started telling the Jason story.
I'm sure that Marvel's already disavowed that, so
Probably,
burning all the copies
yeah.
right now. Ego is. Let's get into, I guess, the Celestials, because I wanted to talk about that last time, and you said no. And
I knew this was coming.
okay, so Ego's not. So in the comics, he is a cosmic entity.
Yes.
Not a celestial, but he says in this that he's a celestial, right?
Does he, or does he just talk about the
No,
creation?
he
of
says like the
Celestials?
celestial. I think I don't know.
Okay.
But tell me what the cosmic entity is, and then let's get into the celestials.
All right. So, like I said, Ego, he's not a guy with this planet. He's a face in a planet. And so he does do the same thing where he uses his kind of essentially antibodies or spores to farm other planets. Years and years ago, back in the 70s when he first showed up, Thor defeated him, and they had like an antagonistic relationship for a little bit. Like Thor would fly into space and beat the planet, and then blah, blah, blah. But then Galactus, who's the Fantastic Four villain, who we saw in the second Chris Evans Fantastic Four movie, he's a little bit more of a cosmic entity as well. He was coming to devour Ego. He's a devourer of worlds, and so Ego and Thor teamed up to beat Galactus.
Okay.
This is the problem, and I'll get into the cosmic entity piece in a bit. Ego has very frequently faced off against the Supreme Intelligence, who is Annette Bening in Captain Marvel.
I knew that.
But this is the problem where you kill off your villain in the only movie that he's in. This is the thing that comic book movies do all the time, and it's not just related to MCU movies. Like it goes back to the Burton Batman era, or the Raimi Spider-Man movies. They just kill them off, and then you can't use them again.
Right.
I know Kurt Russell had to be expensive,
Probably.
so I get why you only use him for one movie, but you can also but like you said before, he very Thanos-esque in this. It's like, how do they both coexist in the universe?
Yeah. How did they
Yeah.
never bump into each other? Yeah. I don't know.
That's the history of Ego, the cosmic entity. Then there's the Celestials. And so the Celestials are part of the Eternals mythos, which we're going to get that movie eventually.
At some point.
Who knows? Maybe Disney Plus. Whatever. There's not a lot connecting this movie to the other MCU films. We kind of talked about that. But this is the piece that may be able to be like a launching pad for the Eternals. Celestials get deep, so I'm going to try to like dumb it. I had to dumb it down for me as I'm like, I don't understand half this stuff. They date back to like the creation stories and the dawn of the universes. There was Adam, and then Eve came along, and then they had servants that worked under them. They're big, like blocky. You see an image of one of the Celestials in this film, and they're very blocky.
Where?
When Ego's telling his origin story, so he like looks.
Oh, okay.
It's a very brief glimpse. I don't know how to. We'll put it on Instagram or wherever we post stuff, but they're very blocky. They're very
Like Minecraft?
Not quite, not that blocky, but they're not human. Like they're humanoid and they're human-esque, but they're not. They have other pieces to them.
When you say Adam and Eve, you mean the Bible Adam and Eve?
Yeah, I'm simplifying it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, what ribs did they pull for these guys?
No. I'm just like that type of idea. There were
All
like
right.
these two entities that were at the beginning of creation.
Gotcha,
And they came along,
gotcha.
and then they had these servants, and so you had the monochrome ones, and then you had colored ones, like red, yellows, orange, greens, whatever. And they were a little bit more rebellious, these multicolored ones. And they wanted to see the universe grow and evolve and kind of do its own thing, where the monochrome ones were very much, no, we wait on these people. This is our job. This is what we do.
So they're very black and white, and the other are in between the lines. I got you. Or in the gray areas.
Right. So, they broke off, and that's when they became this multicolored group became known as the Celestials. And
we're forming our own band.
Kind of, yeah. I guess to keep it kind of related to, just as a note, Nowhere, the planet Nowhere that they go to,
in the first one,
is ahead of a former Celestial.
Yes. They're that big?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it was Guardians 1 where the Collector came in. So Benicio del Toro's character explained that the Celestials would use the Infinity Stones to control lesser life forms. And so that's kind of pieces of where the origin of the Celestials and the Infinity Stones came from. They're not supposed to interact with humans. They're really just supposed to be watching, monitoring, seeing as it grows and evolves.
Right.
And that brings me to the other point, is the Watchers. Is Stan Lee's cameo today.
Okay.
So the Watchers, those big bulbous-headed guys that we see with the blue robes, they just watch. They're supposed to...
They like to watch.
They like to watch. So they show up at times of chaos and craziness. So mostly they've been showing up at the major crossover events in the comics. So Civil War, there's a big splash page. Fear Itself, Original Sin. Those are some big comic epics that have happened where they just show up and they're there and they understand that this is a pivotal moment for Earth. So that being said, do you like the Stan Lee cameo?
It's okay. I mean, I never like them, but it's kind of sad when they cut to the end of the movie and they have it. He's just like, I've got so much more stories to say. And you're just like, oh God, he's dead. Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's a little sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's bittersweet. This was 2 of 4 that he shot together. We talked about how Gunn had talked about how he shot the one for Doctor Strange. You've got 2 more to go. So it's not like this is the last one, but still, you just.
Oh no, he goes all the way until Endgame.
Does he?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
He goes all the way until Endgame.
You're right. My bad. But still, it still feels a little sad while watching it.
I think they could have cut out that tag and it'd be better.
There were like 7 tags in this movie. There was like, I was like fast forwarding and then and I'm like, oh crap, another one.
So I don't know what Watcher Stan Lee was supposed to be, because there's a main one. His name's Uatu.
Isn't that a fan theory though, that he's a Watcher?
I think it was a fan theory, and then they kind of canonized it. I appreciate that you're working with the fans and seeing what they're saying, but for something this kind of minute, it was fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's playing Uatu, who's the main one who's like designated to watch over Earth, and he's the one that shows up on multiple occasions, because there's the new Disney Plus series What If, which features Uatu voiced by Jeffrey Wright.
This is a cartoon.
It's going to be a cartoon, and it takes all the main actors' voices are in there, so they imagine different worlds, different. So if Peggy became essentially Captain America, or
you'd love that, wouldn't you?
Captain America, she's not American, but I think if T'Challa actually was kidnapped instead and became Star-Lord.
Gotcha.
So it's imagine these alternate ideas. So it looks like Jeffrey Wright's Uatu is going to be the one that kind of narrates the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see, now that we've been talking a lot about multiverses too.
Yeah, well, that seems to be a thing now that we're gonna, so we can get Iron Man back into this movie.
Yep.
So Rocket Raccoon,
yes,
was on the planet already in the comic.
Yes. So this was one of our recommended reading for Volume 1.
Is that because of my note, or you just already knew that you were going to do that?
No, that was because you know. Like
nice.
It was included.
I've influenced the recommended reading.
No, it was already in recommended reading Volume 1.
Man,
so I'm calling attention to that one.
Darn it! All right.
So I think it was issue 6 of the Scotty Young Rocket Raccoon series, where Rocket's just kind of like wandering through the galaxy, doing his own thing. It opens up with him exterminating fleas or like lice or something on Ego.
Is that, you think this was intentional, or just kind of like Kismet, like with Ego was the bad guy in Volume 2 and Rocket was on the planet in the comic?
I think,
was it on purpose?
Well, it's like 2 pages. It's the first 2 pages of that issue.
Right.
I think it was published before this movie. It was more of a like just showing Rocket doing stuff.
Right.
Like you open up with a small, quick hit of him like doing a job, and then he goes into the real story.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that came out in 2015, maybe. So after the first movie, or in line with the first movie.
Right.
But I don't know. Like maybe James Gunn had seen it and said, "Well, I don't want to do Jason of Spartoy. Let's do Ego."
Gotcha. Oh, maybe. Mantis.
Yes.
Two things. One, real quickly, was she always a Guardian of the Galaxy? Because they kind of make her into one.
No, she wasn't.
Okay. And she's not whatever she called herself in this movie, where she was a sapling or where Ego raised her with his own hands. Like that's what she says in the movie.
She's not that.
She was a human in
Right.
the comics. So we'll explain Mantis's origins in the comics.
So,
it doesn't good when it starts off with a silent.
well, fun fact: eventually, she settled in Willimantic, Connecticut.
Okay.
Probably about 2 hours from where we're recording this, and she was listed on number 99 on Comic Buyer's Guide: 100 Sexiest Women in Comics.
That's not a fun fact. Come on now.
It's
That's a little bit gross.
yeah, because they didn't do a Sexiest Men in Comics list.
Of course. Why would they, Pat? God forbid. I need to know. It says here that she's a human who
Yes.
acquired her skills by living with the Kree. Go there.
That's it. Yeah,
That's
so
it?
she was picked by the Kree to become essentially like a Madonna figure for the Celestials.
So the Kree come down to Willimantic. Is that what you're saying?
No, they come down to, I think she was in Vietnam. They come down there, she joins a
Oh,
church.
that's right. Right. Okay. You don't have to go get the comic. It's fine.
She joins a church, and they train her to be this Madonna figure for the Celestials, and she mates with a member of the Kotati, a highly intelligent race of aliens.
Wow.
And so she's trained by the Kree. She does gain those empathetic powers.
How
when
does she
gets-
gain the powers? By mating with whatever you just said?
Yeah, and being around them.
Interesting.
So she, I don't know, man. This is a weird one, but
I mean, she really does nothing in this movie but touch people and tell them how they're feeling.
yeah,
And they make her. I know. Does she pop up in Endgame at the end when they do the female?
yes, she does.
Does she really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I gotta go. We'll watch it again. But wow. I'm
So
kind of holding off on watching those until we do them because I want to watch them fresh. For us. Yeah.
So at some point she actually dies in an explosion, or it's thought that she dies, but her personality is split off, and so it's she has to go and piece together her personality.
Because nobody dies in comics.
Right, she popped back up in the 2008 relaunch of the Guardians and joined the team at that point,
Right.
and she would stay on the planet Nowhere. But this is, I think we touched on it in the last film and the last episode of Guardians, where Star-Lord used her empathy powers to trick people into joining the Guardians team.
In the comic.
In the comic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like everybody was mad when they found out, as you should be.
When they found out that she was tricking them. Yeah. Right.
Or Star-Lord
Right.
was using her to trick them.
Is Star-Lord, is he not as noble as he is? I mean, because they make him out to be like, I mean, let's be honest. They try to make him out to be like Han Solo, almost like a lovable thief, a lovable smuggler, and somebody who does the right thing, but he lives in the gray areas. They absolutely try to make him like that, almost like Mac from Serenity from Firefly.
Yep.
Is he that way in the comic, or is he okay? He is.
Yeah, he is.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'm nodding my head.
Yeah, no, I got you. This is a audio format that we're doing here, Pat.
Yes, he is.
So the joke that kind of loses punch for me in the movie about the third time they say his name is Taserface.
Taserface.
So tell me about the race known as the Stark.
A box of Tony Stark's weapons got flung into space. It said Stark Industries on the side or whatever.
Once again, it's Tony Stark affecting something else. All right.
This is in the comics. I don't know how this guy got his name Taserface in this one, or if he is actually part of the Stark. But so this box of weapons made its way into space. They crash landed on this planet where existed this alien race, and they started using the weapons, worshiping Stark as their god, because they then used the weapons to conquer other planets.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, Taserface is a member of that. At some point he fights the Guardians on a number of occasions. He got beat by them, and he lost the name Taserface.
Oh no!
And he became Overkill,
Okay.
or the Nameless One.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is just one of those. There was a character, and like there was a space character that had faced off against the Guardians at one time,
and they want to put him with the
and they put him.
Ravagers.
Yeah, they put him in there.
He ends up killing all of his Ravagers.
Yeah,
every single one of them in this movie. Baby Groot, is he in the comic? This the whole idea
Yes.
of Groot dying.
Yeah.
Okay. Does he Groot die more than once in the comics? Like, do they keep just redoing him
That's a
and
good
to new
question.
Groots?
I don't know how many. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's just a question. And the I know that we talked about this in the last episode of Guardians, that Yondu used to be a Guardian. Right.
Yes.
Does the father-son thing that they do in this movie in the comics between him and Quill?
So that band of the Guardians we talked about was from the year 3000.
So they never intersect?
Initially, they didn't.
Okay.
So he was this whole other like universe type thing. When they relaunched the characters following the movie, they redesigned Yondu from this like space gladiator type guy to one that looks like Michael Rooker's character.
Okay.
And then they've added that same bit of personality of father-son dynamic.
Gotcha. Okay. All
So
right.
they've this is where it influences and then doesn't influence type of thing.
Well, maybe if you don't have anything else, maybe as a bridge to the MCU stuff, let's talk about Adam Warlock.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I know it's DC, okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like, I am completely lost with Adam Warlock, Black Adam, right? Is it Black Adam?
So Adam Warlock is Marvel, Black Adam
Yes,
is DC.
I know, but
Yeah.
I keep hearing them, and I'm lost. I don't know what's what.
They're not as similar as the names probably lead to. So Black Adam is the main antagonist of Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Or one of the main antagonists. Dr. Sivana was the other one.
Black
talking-
Adam or Adam Warlock?
Black Adam.
Okay, all
So we're talking, for those listening, we're talking the Shazam character.
Okay.
There's a big history about what name DC can use or not use, because Marvel also had their own Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel, the DC character, the Shazam character, was originally created for Fawcett Comics. And then they kind of went under. DC picked up the rights to most of their characters. But because of the name Marvel and the limited number of competitors in the space, and Marvel having books called Marvel Comics and a few, Captain Marvel, they weren't allowed to title a book Captain Marvel, which is why the book series and the movies have all gone by Shazam lately.
Real quick,
Yeah.
you can make an argument that Shazam's DC's best movie. It is.
It is.
It's good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, of the recent ones.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're talking Batman vs Superman,
I'm
Man of
talking
Steel,
all
Justice
this.
League,
Yeah, all that stuff. Like,
Aquaman.
yeah, you'd hope that somebody in Warner Brothers would be like, "Wow, why can't we do these all like this?"
Because somebody for some reason keeps hiring Zack Snyder.
All right, well, go on to Adam Warlock.
So, Adam Warlock, he was created back in the 60s by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He was in a handful of Fantastic Four and Thor stories. They were able to, pepper him in there. He was kind of known as him for a while. Just he was a very Christ-like figure, Messiah type, like space Messiah. And so when they had this, Roy Thomas and Jim Starlin, and Starlin's work and even Roy Thomas's work have during the 70s and late 60s, they really overhauled and defined the cosmic universe of the Marvel Comics. So where Lee and Kirby, or more Lee and maybe John Romita and Steve Ditko are working on the street level heroes, the Iron Mans, the Spider-Mans. These guys were doing wonders in space. So Adam was created by a group called the Enclave, not the Sovereign. Not the Sovereign.
Is the Sovereign part of the comic?
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Interesting. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead. Enclave.
So they're like a Scientology-esque group of doctors who want to use technology to take over the world. And so he was a superhuman created by the doctors on Earth, and he had all, your standard superhero powers: flight, strength, energy manipulation, things like that. Eventually, Adam heads off into space, and he's given the soul gem or the soul stone, and it's the green one, because in the comics, initially the colors were mixed matched with the titles. And he partners with Gamora and Thanos to take on a villain called Magus. And I'm not going to get too into Magus, just know that it's kind of like an alternate, darker version of Adam Warlock. And so he's able to trap pieces, souls within the soul gem. And he's able to kind of like split himself and expel the good and the evil. So he becomes a little bit more without emotion, like Vision was.
Okay, yep.
Where he was made without, emotion or feeling or anything. But
Right.
eventually he learns to get that. So he is big in, like, he is one of the key players in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline.
Okay, which we've already done.
Yeah. So, and this was the concern with a lot of fans is, you tease Adam Warlock in this movie. We know Infinity War is coming up. We know Thanos is going to get the gauntlet. Are they going to just introduce Adam Warlock as kind of like a Deus Ex Machina to save the day?
Right.
Obviously, none of that happened, but we did get sort of pieces of it with Captain Marvel, and that was the other pieces. They introduced this omnipotent hero who's going to come in and can blow up spaceships.
Right.
So it's, they took pieces of that and put it in the Captain Marvel story. So in Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos gets the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to impress Death, this an embodiment of Death that he has a crush on.
Okay.
So Thanos does the snap and erases half of all life. It happens.
I think I saw something about that in the movies. Yes, go ahead.
And Adam Warlock has to put together a team of remaining heroes to go and beat Thanos.
I've got to unsnap the snap.
Yeah. So it's very much a Warlock-led series. Like, he is the main kind of... Thanos is the villain focal point. Eventually, Thanos does the same thing that he does in Endgame, where he retires and he just lives out life. But Nebula gets the gauntlet, and so they had to stop. Adam Warlock has to then stop her from causing more harm. But I'm interested what they're going to do.
Well, that's what I was going to... Let's dive into this movie within the universe. What are they going to do? What do you think they will do with him?
I don't know if they're going to do anything with him.
Right.
We talked about it. They tease so much in this one.
Yeah.
And James Gunn has come out and said, we want to focus on Rocket more for Guardians 3. You only have 2 hours.
Yeah.
You've shown us that you can't tell a cohesive story when you have stories on 2 planets.
Well, I think you're going to
introduce...
You're going to have to expect another episodic movie.
Yeah.
You're going to have to... I think you have to expect
Which
that.
is sad, because it's going to be the conclusion of the Guardians trilogy.
Well,
assumingly.
that's the thing, though. I don't know, because it's Volume 1, Volume 2. That tells me that there's just more movies coming.
Yeah.
Now, granted, do you really think that these Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, David Bautista are going to want to sit around and do this over and over and over again? No, they're not going. At some point, they're going to get tired of it. The only other note I have in this movie in terms of within the MCU is that this is the first movie in the MCU that takes place during one phase, but it's a part of another. So this is supposed to take place during the movies of Phase 2, but it's a Phase 3 film, which is what we talked about, because it's several months after Guardians Volume 1, and you've still got the stuff. So it's in either concurrent or in between all that other stuff.
Yeah.
The other movie that do is Captain Marvel, obviously, because it takes place in the 90s.
Right.
But I don't have anything else in this movie that shades anything coming forward.
No, I mean, other than all the tags, which we're still not even sure how they're going to play out.
Yeah.
This is a purely standalone, existing within its own 2.5 hours kind of story. I mean, the only one that I had was you see Howard the Duck the second time.
Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, but that's it. Like, he makes an appearance in the first one, and he'll make an appearance in Endgame.
Oh, where's he?
He comes out of the portal with a gun.
Oh my God! Give me a break.
But that's it.
No, I'm not this type of person. But just for the sake of argument, have you seen the original Howard the Duck?
Yes, I have.
It's not exactly appropriate at times, and it's a PG movie. It's not good. It's not good. Stop trying to make him like a titular hero here. I don't want to see a Howard the Duck Marvel movie. Sorry, I got off my soapbox.
For those joining us on Patreon, we're going to be doing Howard the Duck.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I'll write it.
That's patreon.com/yamp. No, I'm kidding.
Field will write that. No,
but we will.
I am speaking about myself in the third person.
If you want us to review that movie.
Yeah, so there's really nothing to talk about in terms of this movie, and because the next movie I'll tell you what we're doing next, but the next movie in the series is Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Right.
So we get Underoos back, and he's part of the universe now, and we get to see a whole movie with him
and Iron Man.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then we'll see him return later in Iron Man 4. I mean, Spider-Man: Far From Home. But anyways, the only other thing I wanted to ask you was, or tell you, I didn't know if you knew this. Did you know that the character of Ego was owned by Fox? This is before they bought Fox.
Okay. No, I didn't.
So it's owned by Fox because it was connected to the Fantastic Four Silver Surfer movie, the franchise.
Okay.
They had to ask Fox for the character because Gunn was like, no, I want Ego. And so they agreed if Disney would allow them to use the powers of Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the Deadpool movie.
Okay.
So in order for them to get the powers that she has for the movie, they said they could use Ego in their movie. Right?
That's an incredible
talk
trade.
About proprietary stuff here.
Who are you? Like I'd love to be the lawyers in the conference room and be like, we'll trade you Ego for Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and we'll throw in a couple packs of trading cards.
Am I getting this name right? Is this Negasonic? Yeah.
Let the jury see that her name is Negasonic.
To be an entertainment lawyer must be fantastic.
Let me answer this, because I think we have a little bit more time for what we try to end these things on.
Sure.
What do you like better? Guardians soundtrack for Volume 1 or Volume 2?
I like the Volume 1 soundtrack.
Yeah.
Volume 2's got some songs in there that I'm okay with, but like the Cat Stevens songs, I'm like, it's okay. I'm not a Cat Stevens guy. I like my 70s, 80s, well, 70s. This is mostly 70s music, late 70s, early 80s. I like my rock in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the stuff, like the Brandy's a good song.
Brandy's great.
Yeah, it's a good.
Come a little bit closer was
Yep.
fun.
I tell you what, there's not a lot. They do way too many slow motion walks in these movies. Every time they can do it, they do a slow motion walk. But yeah, no, I like the music in the first one. Although when I was writing the notes up for this, I put on the Spotify playlist that has both Volume 1 and Volume 2 songs. Listen to that, so that's fine. No, I don't mind that. I was born in '75, so yeah, I'm familiar with these songs.
I was not.
Yeah, shut up.
Yeah.
You'll get there, Pat.
No, I agree. I think Volume 2 has some great ones. You know, Brandy, that Fleetwood's on here, which is good.
Yep.
Mr. Blue Sky was a really fun, solid opening.
The problem is that with that song is all I think about is Wes Anderson movies. Because it's in one of those movies, right?
Is it?
Was it? Maybe I'm just thinking about something else. I think about a different movie, or I think about a different show with that song.
Fox on the Run in Fantastic Mr. Fox?
I don't know. But I think about that song. I don't equate with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I equate it with something else. So when I hear it in this movie, I'm just like, no, I like that song, but I'm like, that's not really how I, and Groot dancing, all this stuff. That's cute. And I'm sure when my kids watch this movie, they'll think that's great.
Yeah.
My wife will probably think that's great too.
Well, I think that was the big takeaway. I was talking to people and I was like, oh, but Groot's so funny. And I'm like, yeah, but tell me what happened.
Yeah, but that's like Baby Yoda. That's
but Groot was funny. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I know. It's I get you. But I get you.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to know. I think we're in agreement on this one.
So it's a Saturday night movie. Pop on, watch. Good to go. Both movies are Volume 1 and Volume 2. I'm just like, when you dig deeper though, it's pockets of substance and a whole lot of style.
Yeah. That's
my 2-second review. Okay, so next week I will be returning with Pat for Spider-Man Homecoming as we continue on with our Phase 3. This is actually we're splitting up the phase. I forgot. So it's Phase 3 Part 1 for us here.
Yes.
But now I will leave you, and Pat was going to tell you what to read for your comics. So get your pens, get your pads ready. There comes the recommended reading section. As always, at the end of each episode, we like to send you home with some recommended reading that follows up on some of the characters and plots presented in this week's film. Our recommended reading section is sponsored by Infinite Heroes, comics, cards, and collectibles in Watertown, Connecticut. If you're in the Connecticut or New England area, it's a great location to pick up comics from Marvel, as well as DC, Image, and more. They also have a large collection of trading cards, toys, and collectibles. Owner Paul Santos has worked in comics for years, most recently as an editor at DC Comics. Ask him for a recommendation and tell him we sent you.
Thanks for listening. As always, some recommended reading for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. We previously explored different versions of the team in our Volume 1 recommended reading, and this time it's no different. In 2017, Marvel launched the all-new, all-different Guardians of the Galaxy. This series stars all your favorites from the MCU, Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, and even Baby Groot. In Volume 1, Communication Breakdown, writer Gary Gooden and artist Aaron Cooter reintroduced the team that's on the run from the Nova Corps and caught between a feuding Grandmaster and Collector. So I'll give you some reading to get ready for Thor Ragnarok. And then in Guardians 3000, Dan Abnett seemingly returns to the characters he helped revitalize. The only difference now is exploring the original Guardians team, aka the one from the 30th century. Read on to learn more about some of the original team members we see in this film, including Starhawk, Charlie 27, and Vance Astro. And then finally, you may have left the theater or your living room asking, who's Adam? We tried to answer that question in today's episode, but if you want more, check out Warlock, the complete collection by Jim Starlin. This collects Strange Tales 178 to 181, Warlock 9 through 15, and a handful of others. It leads directly into the Infinity Gauntlet saga. As always, thanks for listening. Find us on Twitter and Instagram. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you next week.